What's going on, guys? This is Justin, owner of Creative Soul, and I'm here to bring to you my message of why operating out of survival mode is killing your business and is killing your craft every single day. What does that look like? I broke this down into 3 different pillars representing 3 different artists, representing also 3 different mindsets that I personally had to go through to take myself from that scarcity mindset over to the secure mindset. Now, you're gonna have to sit down and take a lot of notes because I know a lot of people also go through this right now, but we're gonna identify it. Not only are we gonna identify it, but we're gonna show you how to get from here all the way over to here. So where you structure, you have your niche, you have your content factory, and you have your pricing system locked in. So you're gonna wanna sit down and take some notes on this one. The first thing that we wanna dive into is, first of all, is your confidence and that scarcity mindset and where you come from. Many of us don't come from a background where we have artists or entrepreneurs that could show us the process of how to get from here to there, or how your mindset is the most valuable asset that you have to give to anything, your business, your time, your craft, your family. It's your mindset and it's your habits. So how you got to this scarcity mindset and this poverty mindset was literally based off of how you was raised and the environment and the habits that you picked up along the way. Now, this feels super familiar for most people, for most artists. You have this poverty mindset. What that poverty mindset is you grew up feeling like the rug could be pulled out from under your feet at any single time. So instead, you chase. You can't attract because you're operating out of fear. And the fact that you fear that the rug is going to be pulled out from underneath your feet at any moment, like this is too good to be true, that exact thing happens. Why? Because you spoke it into existence. You told God, yo, this blessing is too good to be true. And he's like, yeah, you're right. It is too good to be true. Let me pull that from underneath your rug. So you end up chasing, right? Where does that look like? What does chasing look like as an artist, as a creator, even as a service business owner? Chasing looks like you have open and overly open availability at all times. What that means is not that I'm available to tattoo today, not that I'm available to give you services today. What that means is you're in your DMs responding to people at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. You're picking up phone calls at any hour of the day. Some people look at that as hustle. I look at that as over leverage. It's like the clients are running your schedule and running your business for you. You have no control over it. When they call, you pick up. You run to that fucking phone. Not out of, okay, yeah, I'm busy, I'm getting money, but out of, I need this right here before it disappears. So that leads you to operate in fear, answering these messages, not having any systems set up, not having any boundaries within your business. You start operating out of fear. If they don't say yes, the money will vanish forever. That's your mindset. You don't think that if somebody doesn't book with me today, there's going to be somebody else. You don't think that there are billions of people on this earth, or you can't even fathom that number because you're just focused on one person. What that actually means is you don't have enough leads. But before we get into the leads, let's talk about this fear, because this is what's driving this poverty mindset, right? You aren't niching down because you're scared to say no to any dollar that comes. When I niche down and I started doing specific work for a specific group of people, even now today, I say no more times than I say yes. I can say no to 15 people in a row and still not get discouraged, because that 16th person that says yes has booked a back piece, has booked 3 days back to back, and we're going to be making about $12,000 off of that one client. So with that, I'm not afraid to say no, because I know for sure that this is making room for my ideal client to walk in and for me to get paid what my work actually deserves. This right here, saying no, is the most powerful thing that you can do in your business. And you're not going to be stuck with other clientele, right, that also chase, that also wants deals, that also sense that fear within you and talk you down on your numbers. This is the clientele with that same poverty and scarcity mindset. They're holding on to their money. They don't want to spend the money. They actually really don't want to spend it. So now you're attracting the same vibration that you're putting out. And what you also do is justification. You tell somebody how much the price is. Then you write them a paragraph in your DMs or your messages explaining your prices. What you're doing right there is literally begging for permission to be expensive. You're begging for permission to be expensive by over-explaining your prices. What that is, in my world, that's desperation. And desperation is a low-ticket frequency. So you're going to continue to get low-ticket clients when you're operating out of this scarcity and poverty mindset. That's what you're going to get. Then you have the other artist. The other person, I like to call this the hider. This is the avoidant, and they disguise this as protection. The hider, what do? If you survive struggle, sometimes success feels like a threat to your existence. If you haven't killed this person of scarcity and that poverty mindset, even once you start gaining success, you'll often revert back to your old habits because it feels way more comfortable. You've been there for longer. You was raised in this environment. You know this environment and it's feeling too good. So when things really start going for you, you feel as if this is just too good to be true. So what do? You fall back. Think about it like this. When you're working out, you get on a good stride. You've been consistent for 3 months. You're really starting to see good results. You feel good when you take off your shirt. You can go to the beach. And you love how you look naked. Now you are actually living and feeling like you've always wanted to live and feel. You end up missing 2 days of working out. No biggie. You jump back and you put in some extra work once you get back into the gym on that third day. Week goes by, you end up missing 3 days that following week. No biggie. You go ahead and adjust your schedule and you get back to working out. That thing persistently keeps happening. You check the mirror, I'm still good. No matter, I can miss a day or two. You start eating like shit. Now your bad habits are starting to creep back in and it's starting to feel a little bit more comfortable for you. Right? Then you start to fall off. And then you find out, man, I really got to start working out again 3 months to a year later. Then you start looking at old photos of how you used to look and everything in this nature. And what happened was you got comfortable and you reverted back to that scarcity, poverty mindset that felt better. It felt like home within your nervous system. Getting up and working out and going through successes and things of that nature, you are shocking your nervous system all the time because it is not safety. You're always at risk. And to be successful is a risk. And the body doesn't like that. So it feels more comfortable to go back here. So what do you end up doing? The one that has lived in struggle for so long to where success starts to feel like a threat, they start admin ghosting. What does that look like? Admin ghosting looks like exactly how it sounds. You're ghosting people. You procrastinate on checking your emails, your text messages, and everything of that nature. You post things on your story like, hey, I got an influx of people that DM'd me. I'm going to reach back, right back out to you guys. And you post this while you're out, while you're partying, while you're doing this, while you're doing that. You're feeling good. There's people in your DMs that really like you. They really want your work. But you put them on the back burner, right? Sometimes you don't even have a system to even get right back to them. You look at the message and you say, oh man, this is just way too fucking much, right? So you procrastinate on checking your emails. You procrastinate on checking your banking systems, tracking every single dollar that's coming in and out of your business and knowing where your finances are and where those holes and those leaks are. So you don't check your bank account because boring structure, which is admin work, checking your bank account, making sure your taxes and everything is on point. You feel like this structure is boring at the top because you're looking at the numbers. And when you look at the numbers, you get to know exactly where you're at. And when the feeling that you're currently having in your business is not matching the numbers that's in your bank account, it starts to feel too real, so you hide from learning the truth behind what you're actually building, and you live in the facade of There's still a lot of people DMing me and messaging me. I'm still getting some deposits on here and there. So you end up avoiding the boring work. Whenever you get close to mastering a niche, whenever you get close to mastering your style, what typically happens with this type of person is they'll start a new project. Or they'll say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and start painting. Or I'm going to go ahead and start doing this. Or I'm going to switch this up and do this. They don't stay consistently on that specific style long enough to truly master it. They just touch the surface or the edge of it. They're not fully invested in it. They're not making time for this thing. Why? Because they're self-sabotaging once they really start getting some momentum. Struggle feels more familiar than the win at all times. So we don't want to be here, and we don't want to be here. The next level that you go to is the secure artist. See now, the secure artist is solving all of these problems. Even if somebody is DMing them, even when they start feeling success, they have answers to every single one of these questions and all of the mindsets. What's shifting is not necessarily the person's work ethic. What's shifting is not the person's hustle. What's shifting is the person is no longer operating in chaos and they're operating in structure. This is a mindset shift. This is a structural, architectural mindset shift. The structured artists, they have their niche. What do they do with that niche? They hold space for that niche. They hold space for that craft. Because if you don't stand for one thing, you're just another commodity in the market. You're just another artist. You're just another service provider where they can compare to the next one and get the same services done, if not better or cheaper. That's what you are, because once you hold space, you become the choice. Right? Holding space is holding space to create. You're creating behind the scenes. You're always allowing your creative freedom to express itself. You don't ask for permission to have creative freedom with yourself. So you're looking at all of the tattoos that come in, and you look at the tattoos that you have absolute fun with. The projects where you just lost yourself in time when you was doing these projects. Not only did you love executing the project, you also loved creating it from scratch. And you also enjoyed the vibe of that client. So the structured artist will take all of that into account and really start making space to create more of those types of works to attract more of those types of clientele of that type of person. The person that's in that niche, they're also making time to innovate. When you're creating, and you're staying in that vibe, you're not switching up your styles too much, you're diving deeper and you're doubling down, you begin to get innovative. It just happens. It's not a date on when it happens or how many days do you have to lock in or 10,000 hours or 20,000 hours. When you're just creative, you start having innovative thoughts because you're tuned the fuck in and you're holding space for your craft. So now you're also expressing without permission. So now there's no bars holding you back from where or how far you can go. There's no ceilings that's going to stop you from going to that next level. So you lock in and you feed that motherfucking dog. That's what that niche artist does. At the same time, that artist also has their content factory. What is your content factory? Your content shouldn't depend on how you feel today. It should depend on the schedule you've built. This schedule includes the time that you have to hold space for your craft. This schedule also includes your branding, your content strategy, your clients' reviews, your process, the days that you're going to set aside to create content. This also shows proof of concept, proof of your product. This is your content factory. All of these things need to be recorded. All of these things need to be in your schedule. You need to know all of the pillars of what you're creating so you can show the process and document the process along the way. So you have your niche, and now you're focusing on branding that niche. Your content strategy supports that niche. Your client's review supports that niche. Your process supports that niche. Your content days supports that niche. It feeds itself. Everything right here feeds itself, right? After you've done this, this also now justifies your pricing. A structured person doesn't justify, right? They state the value and let the client decide. You aren't responsible for their budget. You're responsible for their standards. Now, remember how you were operating over here? You write a paragraph explaining your prices, begging for permission to be expensive. Desperation is a low ticket frequency. You go over here and you solve that. How did you solve that? Because you niche down. Whenever you get close to mastering a niche, you change your style and you start a new project. The structured artists, they don't do that. They focus on their niche. They hold space for their craft. They stand for something. They create, they innovate, they express without permission. Versus the hider or the person that's in that scarcity poverty mindset, what they do is they over-explain and they ask for permission. What the hider does is as soon as they get close to mastering something, they let it go. Because the struggle feels more familiar than the win. What the structural artist does is they set up a full structure of their entire business. This changes the mindset over here. Over here, all they're doing is operating out of chaos. This is why they're getting the results. Over here, we're operating out of structure. And when you operate out of structure, you get the results that you're looking for. Looking at, I'm spelling structure wrong. But when you operate out of structure, this is the result you get. Everything is structurally sound. There's no guessing. You're not winging it. You're actually building a sustainable business that you can now scale. And this is the reason why operating out of survival mode is killing your business and your craft. And in order for you to save your business and to save your craft, you have to stop doing these, identify what you're doing here, and you have to solve it by just being a little bit more structured.